Yes, let's go. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having an amazing Friday. As you guys know, Friday is my second favorite F word after all. Dude, thank growth, it's Friday. Welcome, guys. TGIF. You guys remember TGIF back in the 90s? Like, I'm so grateful that I was able to create like a podcast and kind of play off of that and have it tie in, you know? So anyway, dude, I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day. I got to talk to, we've got an amazing guest coming on today. Him and I were in a meeting earlier this morning, and he inspired me, dude. He's inspired me in so many different ways. I started going to the gym more. You guys are going to see this. He's like a modern day Ken from the movie Barbie. Like, he looks fantastic. He's in shape. He's got a hell of an ass. He always takes the stairs and never takes the escalators or the elevators, I guess you could say. And I've learned so much from him. He is a dear and a personal friend of mine. I'm so grateful for him. We had a meeting this morning. I went to the gym, started going to the gym more, started getting more intentional with my diet and living a more fulfilled and happy life, because that's why we're here. The money is good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's not mix words, guys. We're here for the money. But it's not just the money that helps us to live a more successful and fulfilled and a happy life. And I've learned so much from this gentleman. I'm so grateful for him. I started going to the gym more. My relationship with my wife. You know what? I was on a phone call with this individual. Him and I kind of created our own little mastermind together. I've grown in so many different ways just from knowing him. And I was on the phone with him for like 3 weeks in a row. I think it was like either a Friday or a Saturday for like 3 weeks in a row. We happened to be on a Friday or Saturday. I don't remember which day it was, but it was like the same time every week. And he was like, hey, dude, I've got like 30 minutes and then me and my wife are going out. And I was like, fuck, man. And that happened for like 3 weeks in a row. And I was like, dude, me and my wife need to have more consistent date nights. Especially if you throw me in the comment, dude, thank you guys for being here. First and foremost, I see everybody, Ken, Rocio, Terry, thank you guys for being here. James, Mr. Labella, love you, bro. Thank you for being here, man. Happy Friday. TGIF to all. Thank you, guys. I started taking my wife out more, dude. And now we go out every single week because of this individual. I feel more fulfilled at home. I am a happier husband. I am a happier father. And guys, is my hair not on point today? It's nothing compared to the guests I'm going to have. And you guys will see here in a couple seconds. But dude, just want to throw that out there. I'm having a good hair day. But love you guys. Guys, help me put together a very warm welcome for my dear friend. I like to call him DJ Cray, but he goes by Coach Cray.
Hey,
bro,
hey.
What's going on, man?
What is going on? Oh my gosh. Can we get that intro all over again? That was phenomenal. I was so jacked. I was ready to run through the script.
Dude, you're cutting out now, man. We were having such a good morning, and now DJ Cray is cutting out. Look at this. I can hear you now. Look at this, dude. The best hair. Guys, did I not tell you that he had the best fucking hair?
Dude, yours is spot on.
Where do you think I got it from? I'm a happier guy because of this, bro.
Happy hair, happy life. Everyone knows.
That's what they say, right?
That's the only reason why I'm happy is because I still have hair. I don't care the color. As long as the hair stays, I'm okay.
Dude, I got my last haircut in December.
Okay.
I was like, dude, this is going to be my last haircut. And I'm going to see how long I can go this year without cutting my hair. So hopefully at some point this year, when we get done with the intro to the podcast, because it's freaking super dope. I can do like that windmill thing with my hair that see all the heavy metal guys doing.
Is that what you're going for? I mean,
we'll see.
I'd known that we were gonna have a hair off, I would have actually put some product and styled mine.
Oh, dude, it's not much of a hair off when you know you're gonna win, Creighton.
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to be invited back. That's why. Because that happens to me all the time. Like, I know if I put this together, like I put on a sweatshirt, I've tried to take it down because otherwise, if it's too good, then people don't have me come back. Like, who's that guy?
How does it feel that when you, in your mind, you dress down, you're still leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else?
It sounds about average. It's just another day.
Just another day being Creighton. Well, bro, thank you so much for being on here, man. Like I said, dude, I'm so grateful for your friendship. I have learned so much from you, both as a husband, as a father, as a business professional, as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor. Thank you. I'm so grateful for your friendship, bro. For everybody who doesn't know, I don't know if anybody doesn't know. I'm just looking at the comments, dude. Everybody's like, Creighton. But for everybody who doesn't know you, as they say, every superhero has their origin story, man. You mind taking a couple seconds and just introduce yourself to the crowd, man?
Yeah. Okay. Let's give this a go. So, my background, I guess I grew up in Eastern Oregon, so a really small town of like 2,000 people. It's probably smaller than what you're dealing with in Alaska. So I don't know why you complain about Alaska problems. Like,
yeah, it was like 2 people here.
Yeah, exactly. So I grew up in a really small town, and then I went to school for mechanical engineering on the west side of Oregon. Mm-hmm. Graduated with that, and I actually, one of my stories that people like to hear is when I graduated Oregon State, the weather was rainy. It's a lot like what it is where I'm at now in Seattle, and I hated the rain. Like, I like all the seasons. I like all the seasons of the year. So like, I was
That's so weird that you would like that.
I know, right? I'm just so selfish. So I got so tired of the rain that we always had in Corvallis when I went there. So I was like, you know what? I want anything other than rain. And so I was like, you know what? LA, I've heard of LA. I heard LA has a lot of sun and it has beaches. So I was like, this is going to be awesome. So I packed up. I had a Honda Civic.
Phoenix, by the way?
No, I didn't even know what Phoenix was back then. Like, it didn't exist to me.
That makes sense.
And there's no beach. Like, I mean,
it's nothing but beach. There's just no water.
There's beach in Phoenix? How about you have a beach without an ocean?
The entire state is beach. There's just no water.
Huh. Okay. I don't understand.
It's all sand.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so I graduated and I just wanted sun. So I packed up my Honda Civic that I had, 94 Honda Civic, and moved down to LA. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to rent. And I actually, because I backpacked through Europe and did some stuff prior. Am I back?
You're back. Hey, there he is.
Hey.
Welcome back.
I don't know why that I'm blaming StreamYard. I've never had any of these issues with Zoom.
Yeah, that's all right. Probably has nothing to do with Oregon.
I'm in Seattle, so
or Washington.
Yeah, it's probably being governed. So anyway, I moved to LA and I didn't have anything set up, so I was living out of my car for the first month that I lived in LA. So what I did is actually during the daytime, I got a membership at a gym, and so that I could take a shower. And then during the day, I'd go to Best Buy and I'd get on the internet and I'd look for jobs, and because the phone stuff wasn't as amazing back then. So I go to Best Buy, I'd look at all this stuff and I'd plan out my day. And then I'd go to I found this hack for anyone that's living out of their car. If you go to a really nice hotel, you can sleep in their parking lot. And then in the morning, you get dressed and you go in and you get free continental breakfast. So that was my routine. I would go in the morning. I go to this really, shout out to Aries Hotel in LA.
Life hack.
Amazing. Yeah. So I was such a regular there because I did this, that one time was there. When I was talking to one of the concierge persons and they're like, "Oh, we see you here all the time. Are you enjoying your stay?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's great. The breakfast's amazing." And I was like, "But I'm trying to figure out where to go." And they're like, "Oh, you got to go down to the Strand." And I'm like, "Oh, where's that?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we'll just have the driver take you down there." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, so he called him, and I got a ride down to the Strand for free, in a town car. And then the driver's like, "Oh yeah, just call us when you want to come back, and just tell him your room number, and we'll come get you." And I was like,
Ooh.
"Oh, well, I don't have." I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I just cabbed it back from there.
What is the Strand?
Oh, that's like where all the clubs and stuff are in Hermosa,
Oh, okay.
because that's where I ended up going, was to Hermosa.
Okay.
So anyway, I was there for a month, and that was my routine. Is in the.
Oh man, this looked like it was going to be so good, guys.
Are we back? Hello?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're back.
Oh my
That would
god.
have been awesome to have like something pop up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'll have to get better at those.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why it keeps cutting in and out.
You're
Can
good,
you still
dude.
hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Not when you cut out, but I can hear you now.
Okay. So anyway, that was my routine. Is during the day I'd go to all these job interviews in my Honda Civic, and then I'd be done like around 2:00, and it was amazing because at 2:00 then I'd go to the beach, and I'd sleep because my Honda Civic was so full of stuff that I slept in the driver's seat, like leaned back. So, and I couldn't even put it all the way back because there was stuff in the back seat because there's a coupe. So it was pretty tough, but staying on the beach, I just slept during the day, and then I'd go to the gym. And then after that, I would go back to Best Buy, get more leads for job interviews, and rinse and repeat, look for places to stay. And I did that for about a month until I found my first engineering job. So that's kind of how I started.
Wow.
And then I got into engineering. I really wanted to do prosthetics. Like that's what I went to school for, is mechanical engineering, because I wanted to do prosthetic engineering to help people that couldn't walk. So I went to this place when I was in LA. I looked them up and I found a place that manufactured prosthetics, and I walked in and applied for a job, and it was these two Russian guys, and they're like, "We can't pay you as an engineer, but we can give you $9 an hour." And I'm like, "What?" I was making more because all throughout college I was a bartender and server. And so I made actually really good money, and I was like, I can't really do anything off of 9. So I was working for them, and I was working.
You're working for them, and then what?
Dude, are you kidding me?
Oh shit, dude! You got me for half a second. I thought you were doing this.
Oh no, I'm here.
Ken's like Bueller.
Dude, I don't know what the heck, how to stop.
Guys, it is Creighton's end, right? Is it Creighton or is it me that keeps going in and out?
Does it?
No, I don't know. I'm asking everybody. I just want to make sure it's not me. I want to make sure that way I don't have to do the Creighton. It's not you, man. It's me. I could just no. It's all Creighton. No, it is you.
Dude,
okay,
it's
cool.
Not.
Matt says it's Creighton.
They're on your side, man.
Blame it on DJ Cray.
Dude, I'm doing a speed test as we have this. I'm at like 500. Yeah, 560, 580.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but apparently in Washington it's not very good.
I'm at 680.
Where's James? James Z. Can you interpret that for me, bro?
James, and what? James,
can we get an integrator to interpret this for me?
My download upload
is that bad?
It's good.
All right, cool. Okay.
So anyway, I wanted to tie this into the whole thing that I wanted to talk about, more of the fulfillment stuff, is I was doing this prosthetic job, which I actually enjoyed. Like it was actually of all the jobs I've ever had, even 14 years as an engineer doing aerospace stuff. This first job that I got paid $9 an hour, I got to do everything. I designed the prosthetics. I took it to the manufacturer. I had them build it. And then I took it from the manufacturer to the people and had them place the prosthetics and watch them put it on like kids and stuff. And it was like amazing. It was so cool.
Yeah.
But you know what wasn't cool? Dude, should I just switch to my phone? Like this is insane.
I don't know. Can you connect to your phone's signal internet? Is that a thing?
I didn't hear what you said.
Can you connect to your phone's interwebs like hotspot?
I mean, it's got to be slower than what this is. But let's see. I'm going to find your link. It's funny because I've always, with Google Meet and StreamYard, both have never been friends of mine. But Zoom has never had a problem.
Dude, this is awesome. Well, while you're figuring this out, Matt says, love hearing Creighton's background. I only knew about his Boeing experience.
Oh, yeah. All right, let me try through my phone. Let's see if that's any better.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I have to open it in Safari.
Actually, StreamYard has an app that you can use to jump to join, but you can only do it as a guest. You can't host Zooms or meetings through the app.
This is like a whole Apple Android thing.
Dude, what you want to hear something interesting? So everybody has this whole Apple, while you're pulling this up, this is really interesting. For all you Android users out there, and I hope James Eager is listening to this real quick. For all the Android users out there, you always have this back and forth, hatred. Or you said you're going to try it on your phone?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll wait for you to pop in. So you have this this is something that's going to be really interesting, guys. I did not realize this. You always see the back and forth between Android users and iPhone users. It's always this comedic, everybody kind of ragging on each other. It's almost kind of like other people in the military ragging on each other. It's like, oh, you're chair force. Oh, you're in the Marines. You're in the Army. I tell everybody all the time, like when we got to break things down, we call it army proofing. But
whoa, don't do that.
Oh, there it is.
Just
see if we can. Is that better? Oh, you got to jump out on your computer. There we go.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good, dude. You're good. But I had an Android for the longest time, and I'd always thought that, I really didn't think much of it. I just kept holding on to my Android because I loved the Android platform. And then I heard a mentor of mine say something one time that completely changed my entire perspective on something on the Android iPhone thing. He's like, dude, when you get into bigger rooms, like I'm talking people who, are worth, at least a minimum like $8 million and up. When you get into rooms where people are worth $8 million and up, everybody has an iPhone. And yeah, it's cool. Like you want to have your Android and customize it and it's all fucking cool and shit. But when you get into bigger rooms, you completely annihilate and remove your ability to effectively communicate with these individuals. Like if they're on an airplane or something like that, iPhone to iPhone, you can still talk to people because iMessage. But all these other people that are worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, they're not going to go download WhatsApp or Messenger or any of these other freaking apps just so they can communicate with you because you choose to have an Android.
So you're saying StreamYard is equivalent to that?
No, I'm just, you brought up an iPhone. I was just letting everybody know. Once I heard that was
okay, even though I'm using, so I apologize because I'm using the Apple product at this point. So
Oh, you're
I don't
good, dude.
know.
You should be using an Apple product.
Okay, I did.
But
Free.
yeah, no, you sound good, bro, and you look even better.
Oh,
So we
awesome.
can hear you. So if you
Cool.
got an Android out there, guys, and you are serious about you're serious about wanting to grow and connect with people, making sure that you're in the right rooms.
You have to level up. Apparently, I
You
just
got to
keep one
level
of
up, man.
do one of each.
Yeah, go pay for 2 phones. That way you can.
Yeah. Well, the Androids are always cheaper anyway. They lose their value so fast compared to the Apple.
So,
But
Creighton, let's
anyway,
continue on. Yep.
sorry. So we
No,
should
you're
be good
good.
now.
You're
So
good.
yeah, so I was doing this
You're making all these
engineering.
prosthetics.
Yeah, so it was an amazing job, and so again, I was only making $9 an hour in Hermosa. So at the time, my rent was like $800 a month, which was insane for me. I mean, I'm someone from a small town in Eastern Oregon, and then I went to Corvallis, and I think my rent there was only like $300 a month. So to pay 700 was insane, and only making $9 an hour was so hard. So I got another engineering job doing something I didn't like. This is how I got into aerospace, because I had my job resume out and I got a job at a thermoforming and composite job, and they were paying me my first like 60,000. So they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, we'll pay you 60,000." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like you talk about once you make 100,000, that was my goal at the time. It was like if I can get to 100,000,
Yeah.
like I won't be Donald Trump, but I'll be amazing. So let me go to that.
Uh-huh.
And so I started to do that. And so then I started to get money. And this is what my whole journey started is I started to get the money, and then I didn't have time to do the prosthetics. Like it was interfering. So I was like, you know what? I quit with the prosthetic job. I did that for about a year. I worked 2 jobs at the same time. But that's pretty normal. Back in high school, the reason I had a souped up Honda Civic is I had 3 jobs when I was in high school because I just wanted to be able to buy my own stuff. So anyway, I quit the prosthetics, and then I just got into aerospace. And as I got into aerospace, I just saw the money kept coming and coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed that route for probably, I mean, I was doing aerospace for over 14 years that I did that. And it was great. Like I made a lot of money. I was making, I think actually, so I moved to LA. I got my first job making 60. After I got that job, I went and bought my BMW. And then after I bought the BMW, I got laid off that first week. I was like,
Oh,
whoa,
man.
okay, I guess nothing's guaranteed. And then I kept looking. I found another engineering job, but this engineering job was a contract job. So here I was at this time when I moved to LA. I was 24, 25. Yeah, I was 25, and I got this engineering job, and I went in for the interview. I didn't want to do the interview because the job sounded boring and terrible, but they called me to come in. I was like, cool, I'll go in. And this is what I want to tell people to watch out for. When you're just focused on the money, I almost guarantee you're going to find it one way or the other. So
When
I
you're
was
just
just
focused on the money.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to find it. Like if you focused on one thing, if you focus on training, if you focus on, happiness, whatever it is, like you're going to find it. You might not find it today, but eventually you're going to get there. It might take you a while. So I was so fixated on just the money. So I went to this one job interview, and while I was at the interview, they're asking me all these questions. And at the end, the guy's like, "Okay, I think you're a good fit. We're going to bring you on." I was like, "Oh, okay, awesome." And he's like, "Okay, but what about pay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm hoping to make."
We can't hear you, brother. I can't hear you. You're not on mute. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Oh, man. Swipe down. Did your phone accidentally connect to like a Bluetooth or something? Like turn your Bluetooth off. Did it accidentally connect to a Bluetooth? Can't hear you, bro. I think you guys, I actually knew what he was saying. Did you guys catch that? It was like, it's like, all right, he's gonna jump out and jump back in. That says it all. Creighton expressions. Oh man, what a beautiful Friday, guys! How cool is this though? How cool is this? If you guys just side note real quick.
Not cool at all, bro.
Oh,
Not
there you
cool
are.
at
We
all.
can hear you now.
It's because I got a phone call.
Oh,
a phone call came in.
Damn phone calls, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, this how awesome is this though? Like failing forward right here. You guys are seeing it live. Like don't let internet or connectivity issues keep you guys from going out and starting a podcast or posting online or doing some of these things, man. You guys are seeing it happen live. It's not 100%. A big deal.
And I have a whole setup. I have a good camera. I have a microphone. I have all this stuff, and here we are.
You just need to go to Best Buy and figure out your interwebs now, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, so I was at this job interview. We got to the pay, and when we got to the pay, he's like, "Okay, well, we're gonna start you at 49," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm already making 60 at the time," and he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, we could probably bump it up to 50, but that's about the best we could do." And I'm like, "Oh, really? I was hoping for something a little more." And he goes, "Well, $50 an hour is the best that we can do at this moment." And I'm like, I thought he's talking about per year. I thought he's saying 50,000 a year, but he's talking about $50 an hour. And at that time, that's like 100 grand. And I was this 24, 25-year-old kid. And like, as soon as he said that, like, I couldn't even pay attention anymore. Like, I didn't know what he said. I don't know what happened. I left the interview and I felt like I was a ghost. Mm-hmm. And I called my now wife at the time. She was my girlfriend at the time. She's like, how'd the interview go? And I go, I don't know. I think that they said that they're going to pay me $100,000 a year, but I don't believe it. Like, I was like, I don't believe it until I see it. Like, yeah. What do you mean you don't know? And I was like, well, I think he said that he's going to pay me $50 an hour. But I don't believe it until I see it. And then sure enough, I signed the contract and I was making $50 an hour. Plus I got overtime, which is time and a half. So that's $75. So here I was living in LA.
You're in your mid-20s making $75 an hour.
Yeah. And I was like 25 and there was like 4 other people that were my age that were doing the same thing. So we're making all this money in LA and obviously we're blowing. So I went and got a better BMW. I upgraded my BMW as one does. Because I didn't know about investing and planning and all that stuff. Like, again, this is like, be careful what you focus on. I was so just focused on money. Like, I wasn't focused on other things because in my mind, 100,000 was it. Like, I needed to get to 100,000. I got there. I was like 25, 26, and I was making 100,000 plus the overtime. So I was making like 150 a year. Easily.
So 150 in LA at the time was pretty good.
It was a lot. Yeah. It was enough that on the weekends we'd go to the club in Hollywood, which if anyone's ever went clubbing, and other than being in Europe, which the clubs are real in Europe, but the clubs in the US, none of them are real clubs unless you go to Hollywood. Like, that was like next level. Like, I was like,
what does that mean exactly? Not to side tangent, but what does that mean?
What do you mean by that? Like, so when you go to the club, like, it's like a full club.
I've never even been to a club in my life.
It's like Night at the Roxbury. Like, there's a line and it's the whole thing. Like, you wait at the line and all this, and then you get up to the line, you have to deal with the bouncer. But then when you go inside, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been to some of the clubs in Vegas, but it's like that. Like, it's just
I've never been to Vegas either.
Yeah, that's
I've seen movies. I gotcha.
Yeah, that's like a movie.
Okay.
So anyway, but we would go to there and we get bottle service. So it's like $3,000 to get bottle service, but you get your own table. So there's these 25, 26-year-old kids coming there and we get bottle service. Like, that's what we did with our money. We just blew it as fast as we made it. And if I could go back, I would be like, dude, you should have bought a ton of real estate at the time. But that wasn't in my thing. Like, and this is why you got to be careful what you focus on is what you're going to get. Like, I was just so focused. You make 100,000. Cool. Here you go. And then it was like, cool. I just want to party. Cool. So then you're just partying and that's it.
Yeah.
And I did that and I stayed on that path because then I got addicted to the money. Like, it was just the money. It was always just the money.
Yeah.
And then I moved up to Seattle, which is where I'm at now. And it was just for a job because it paid more. So I was like, cool, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to make more money. Everything's going to be awesome. But it starts to lose its luster. I think I was like in my 30s when it all kind of started to like, I just felt like Groundhog's Day is what I explain it as. Like, I wake up and I'm pretty good at being disciplined. Like, I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I go to the gym at 5. I'd work out for an hour and a half. I get to work at 7. I do work from 7 to 2. And that's it. I was just checking in and checking out, checking in and checking out, checking in and checking out. Like, I wasn't present and I didn't notice anything that I had in my life.
You got caught up in the mundane day to day.
Yeah.
You were Bill Murray.
100%.
You stepped over the same pothole every day. You saw the same person every day.
Yeah. And I didn't get to do all the fun stuff though. So
now, how did you not? What do you mean you didn't get to do all the fun stuff? I mean, you're making over $150,000 a year. It was just you and your wife. You guys didn't have any kids at this time, right?
No, not until. But again, and this like it would make no emotional thing about it. So I apologize, but
no, you're good. Don't apologize.
Like,
bro. This is awesome.
When you're going through that and you have everything, but you feel nothing. This is what I talk about. Like, when you have everything and you feel nothing, like, it impacts your life. Like, I didn't have the excitement, the luster, the love like that I have now, like, because you're just so blah. So like my like you don't like it was just me and my wife, but like our relationship wasn't good at all. Like, we were just going through the motions in our life as well. Like you were talking about in the intro of like going and doing date night. By putting in an hour into your relationship, like, you get a big return. Does that make sense? Like it's going to make an impact. So by me being a shell of a person of just like, I was just so good at being disciplined. I just did the things. So I was really emotionless. So that's how I was showing up to the relationship, which we can talk about more on all that stuff if you want. But yeah, so I was just like this person, but I didn't have any feeling. I didn't have anything. But so and that's when I was like about 30 and I just was going through the motions of everything and it was just so numb. And then because of my life, like all I knew is I wanted 100,000. I wanted to be successful. So I got the quote unquote success. I had the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then I even went into, I think at 30, I don't remember how old I was. I think at 30, I probably I found out about real estate because I was like, okay, hundreds of thousands of dollars isn't enough to make me happy, but if I can make more hundreds of thousands, and how do you make more hundreds as an engineer? Like, there's not really a lot of options to keep moving up the ladder. So I was like, okay, I looked into day trading. I looked into real estate. I was looking at all these avenues to make more money because in my mind, more money was going to make me happy. That was the problem. If I didn't have to go to work now, then I'd be happy.
OnlyFans wasn't a thing back then, though, right?
No, it wasn't.
Dude, you would have made a killing, bro.
I would have. Yeah. Dang, missed opportunity. I just am too old. So anyway, I got into real estate. I think at that time I was like, okay, real estate makes sense. Let me start buying some property. So I think I bought my first duplex. It was like 2017, I want to say 2017, 2016, something like that.
Yeah.
But what happened in the meantime of all this, of me chasing, wanting more success, all this money, all these things that I was just so fixated on, when I was 30, I had my first daughter. And so she was born when I was 30. And it just blew me away to have this thing that was free and I didn't have to do anything to get it, which just like was a paradigm shift all on its own. Because in my life, like even for my engineering degree and getting jobs and my BMW and everything was a grind. Like, I had to push. It was so much effort and I had to sacrifice. Like, that's what I was really good at, like, especially in sports. Like, all the coaches loved me because I would just work relentlessly. Like, I just love to be treated like a dog. Like, make me work, make me go do stuff. Like, that's what makes me happy. So having my daughter that was free and I didn't have to do anything to get it, like, made me feel the way that I thought the money, that I thought like all these things were supposed to make me feel. Or at least that's what I was hoping for. And that just blew my mind. I was like, what the hell? Like, this doesn't make sense at all. Like, this thing is free. and it makes me feel so much love. It makes me feel so happy. It makes me feel seen. It made me feel all the things that I thought, these external things, the BMW, the money, I thought those would plug all these holes that I essentially had inside of me. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was 30. This is 10 years ago. I'm 40 now. So this was 10 years ago. And that's when I just automatically got obsessed with solving this problem. Because to me, as an engineer, like I want to figure stuff out. It's like, how does this thing make me feel the way that I want to feel? And then the first thing that most of us that have some mental stuff is like, well, there's something wrong with me. Like I got to be broken because I should be happy that I have the hundreds of thousands of dollars. My wife's absolutely amazing. She's gorgeous. She's Brazilian. Like everything's perfect on paper. I have an amazing house. We're like a mile from the water here in Seattle. Like on paper, everything makes perfect sense.
Right. You're Jed Clampett, bro.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So that's when I started to read into psychology because I was like, okay, how did this thing make me happy? And then I started to research, okay, well, what does it mean to be happy? Find out about the hormones, what's going on in your brain, all this stuff, and start studying psychology, human behavior, all this stuff. And that's when I realized, like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, this is just a normal thing that a lot of people try to plug internal issues with external stuff. And at the same time, because I was so numb on the inside that I didn't, because a lot of us judge a lot of other people for what we judge ourselves for. Like most likely, whatever you're analyzing, things that bother you about other people, it has something to do with you because other people don't get annoyed by that person. So anyway, all the insecurities that I had about myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not successful enough, all these things, like I projected that onto my wife as well, which wasn't fair for her. She wasn't asking. Like it makes me sad just thinking about the way that I used to like see and tell her stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when we were about to get a divorce. It was probably like about 5 years ago now that we were about to, because I was just so numb because I was in this Groundhog's Day. I was still trying to figure it out. Like I was probably like 36 at the time, I want to say. Yeah. So I'd been 6 years studying, trying to figure this out, but I hadn't figured it all out yet. I understood about happiness, what's going on. But my wife and I's relationship was going down the tube because I was still the Bill Murray of just so checked out of my life. I was going through the motions, just doing these things and working a job that I didn't like and all this resentment, all this stuff that it just was making me even more depressed and upset.
So what was it? You talked about, because you said this all happened 5 years ago, but then you also mentioned that you had a really big epiphany. You had a kind of a there was a pivot when your daughter was born at 30 as well.
That sparked it. That sparked that there's something I didn't know what it was though. Like it started it of like, okay, there's something, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to redo it. I started to study about psychology, human behavior, but none of it clicked until, so my wife and I were about to get a divorce. And when we were about to get a divorce, we went through multiple therapists and all this. So for anyone out there that is going through mental stuff or anything, if you don't find the right person, like I think I've been to over like 5 different therapists, that you have to find the right person that works for you. And that, so don't, just like what we're dealing with this tech stuff, like don't stop. Like just keep going, just like you do with real estate, like you do with money. Like when you want to get to the root of it, you'll find it. You'll keep going until. Sure. And that's actually how we saved our relationship. So we went to one therapist, and one therapist was terrible that she talked to us, and it was my wife and I sitting on the couch, and I didn't want to tell my wife how I felt because I didn't want to hurt her. So the therapist was like, "Oh, okay, Creighton, is there anything you want to say?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have anything to say." And she's like, "Wow, I've never seen anyone as cold as you, Creighton, come in. And I've been doing this for a long time." And I'm like, and to me, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, obviously there's something wrong with me. I'm broken.
How did you take that when she said that? Was it, were you like thinking like, did you go on the defensive? Were you like, well, fuck you? Or
no,
did you take
because,
that and were you like, wow.
My internal was all about Creighton. Like not like it's all about me, but like, yeah, Creighton's not good enough. Like, so as soon as she said that, it just reaffirmed the story that I had. that I'm not good enough. So when she said, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, there's something wrong with me. So she's like, oh, is there anything you want to tell your wife? And I was like, I don't have anything. She's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I don't understand that. She said that, I don't see that there's anything to save here. You guys might want to figure out how you're going to do the paperwork, what you're going to do with your kids. That, I don't see how you guys are not going to have a divorce. And it was just like, whoa, what the heck? Like, I guess that's it.
So she just started feeding into that as soon as you said that.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah. She's like, well, there's nothing.
Do you think that she did that on purpose, knowing?
Like
with her background in psychology and everything?
Yeah. So I always tease my therapist that I ended up going to the same thing. And she's like, Creighton, I'm not as smart as you that I'm able to plan and try to do that stuff. And I go, or you're saying that because you know that I would, and that's how you're going to get me to do it. So I'm not sure. But so anyway, after that one, that was terrible. We were about, okay, yeah, this isn't going to work. We're going to get a divorce. And then I was like, but she's told me at that session, she's like, okay, like point blank, Creighton, like you need to get help. Like you are emotionless, which is so like, I mean, I'll cry right now. Like it's crazy to think that at that time, like people saw me as unemotional because I have so much emotion. Like, and this goes out, I talked to a lot of my clients about this. Like if you have a lot of anger is emotion. Like most guys come to me like, oh, I'm emotionless. And I'm like, do you ever get angry? Like, oh, I get angry all the time. I'm like, just let you know, anger is an emotion. It's just the one that you know how to hold on to. But when you can find and tap into these other ones, like that's when life gets amazing. Because your ability to hone in on anger is awesome, but you can also hone in on happiness, love, gratitude, all the other things, just the same way that you harness the anger. It's just you've taught yourself through 30, 40 years, however old you are, to hone in on anger and just hold that emotion. But if you practice, you can hone in on any other emotion as well. So anyway, but luckily during that call with the therapist, she said, Creighton, there's something wrong with you. You need to go get help. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So then I called around. I went to a couple of different therapists, and I remember going to the one that is in charge of saving our marriage. And my wife and I still see her like maybe every 3 months, something like that, just to communicate what's going on, to check in. But when I went down to her, I was like talking to her. I'm like, oh, I'm this, I'm all these things. And she goes, whoa. She's like, you know that you're really intense, right? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, okay, do you want to change that? And I'm like, no. And she goes, okay, then do you want to learn how to harness that? And I go, yeah, that sounds awesome. And I was like, cool. She's like, awesome, let's go.
Let me ask you something real quick. I'm sorry. Can I interject real quick? When she asked you if you wanted to change that, how did you know whether or not that was something you wanted to change versus just harness? Like as an individual, how did you know?
Because I don't want to, like, I love my intensity. Like, it's just something I didn't want to change. And that's what I wanted to say is, before I was interrupted, is that you shouldn't change for anybody. Like no matter if you're going to therapist or whatever, like they shouldn't force you to change. And when I went to other therapists, like this is why I didn't like the other therapists, because I come in hot and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going on. This isn't happening the way I wanted and all this. And they're like, whoa, you need to slow down. Like you need to calm down. And I'm like, I don't want to. Like, it didn't feel like they were understanding and listening to me. That it sounded like they wanted to change me.
Yeah.
So when I went to this one, she's like, you're intense. Like, do you want to change that? I'm like, no, I don't. And then she's like, cool. Do you want to harness it so it's not impacting your relationships and stuff? I'm like, yes. And the awesome thing about this, so for anyone, I don't know if people are going to want to hear this, but anyone that has relationship issues, it's not a relationship issue. It's most likely a personal issue. So when I sat down with our therapist, or the one that I was going to for a long time, and I was like just blaming my wife for everything. Oh, she's this, and if she didn't do this, then our lives would be better and all this. And she said the best thing. She's like, Creighton, I don't know if I can save your relationship with your wife. Like, I have no idea. But what if we started to work on your stuff? And if you work on your stuff, maybe it'll help with your relationship, maybe it won't. But the benefit is whatever stuff you have, you're not going to take it to your next relationship. Are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And so as we started to work on myself, like that's what started to fix our relationship entirely. Because like, I mean, it's crazy because I blamed her for a lot of stuff and had a lot of resentment. And it's so insane to think that there's so many people that I run into that they have everything, but they don't realize what they have. Like they feel like they have nothing.
Yeah.
And so to look back, like how my relationship is now with my wife, like how amazing we communicate, how amazing our lives are, our connection, like it kills me to think that I almost threw that away because I couldn't see what I actually had. Because I was so fixated, back to the mindset stuff, so fixated that things aren't good enough and it could be better, and just always focusing on the negative and always wanting to change stuff instead of being present and grateful and having gratitude and just improving. Really, for anyone that's having the relationship, it's all real communication. I didn't know how to tell her about my emotions. And this is what our thing was, is because I wanted to be perfect, because my internal story is I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, then I'm not going to be the best. If I'm not the best, then I won't be loved. Like that's my whole thing. So with that, I don't want other people to see my insecurities, or at least I used to. Like I didn't want people to see my insecurities or any of these things. So I held it all in. So like my wife got this like stoic version of Creighton, that he's hard and he does all these things and he's unemotional. But like, how do you have a relationship with someone that's like a robot? Like she'll comment that like, oh, you're kind of being like a robot again. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So I had to learn how to feel safe sharing my emotions and my feelings with her. Because Creighton before was so hard and he was so disciplined that whenever she's like, hey, can you go take out the trash, or can you clean up the kitchen after we're done eating? I would just be like, yeah, I can do that. And I would do it. And then be like, man, I really hate doing this. And then the next time she asks, hey, can you do this? Yeah, I can do it, but I hate doing it. But I never told her any. And I just kept taking it on and on and on. And for anyone that does this, like, you don't think it's a big deal. And it's not a big deal the first day. But as you do it 2 days, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, like that's what happened for our relationship. It starts to build that resentment because you're holding these internal feelings. And a really funny example is, so I think we were married for seven, together for 9, when all this stuff started to happen between our relationship. And I think probably once a week she would make spaghetti. And when I started to tell her about my feelings, I told her one night, I was like, hey, honey, thank you so much for making spaghetti, but I actually don't really like spaghetti. And she goes, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Because I thought that like she's going to be upset and is it the whole thing. And she's like, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, well, I wanted to appreciate that you're doing it. I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but I just don't like. She goes, I've been cooking you spaghetti for like 7 years. If you would have told me that you wanted something else, I'd be happy. She's like, I don't even like this spaghetti. I only made it for you because I thought that you actually liked it because you eat it every single time.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, I would have been, she goes, the only reason I'm making it is because I thought it made you happy. And I was like, oh, wow. So there's so many areas in all of our lives that we aren't having these communications. So one person thinks, like my wife thought she's doing an amazing job, but like I'm making something my husband likes. And the husband's like, oh my gosh, I hate this. God, why won't she make me salmon? Why won't she make me steak? She doesn't love me enough. That's why. And we come up with these silly stories. And that just happened for so many things in our life and when you don't be honest about how you're feeling about stuff, it starts to build that resentment. And so that's what happens as far as, disconnecting.
So for people to be able to connect in a way where they can communicate like you and your wife are now, and have those abilities to be honest and sincere and to not bottle things up, do they have to go to a therapist to get started on this? Or where would you recommend anybody that's watching that may be feeling the same thing or has been in the same situation?
I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. Like, I can't say that you have to do anything. Like, I do this and you probably do something similar in your coaching. Like, the biggest thing for me for anything is figure out, what do you want? Like, you have to want the thing. And then the other thing is you have to believe that it's possible. Like, without those two things to start anything, Like there's no reason to continue to go. Like those are the two first things. So back to your question of, do you have to go to a therapist? No, like to me, realistically, it all comes down to one, do you know what your feelings are? Like, I mean, this is how bad it was for me. And I have a lot of my clients do the same thing of like, I had to start to figure out what feelings were, because all I knew was anger. Like I was really good at anger. Like that fueled my whole life. Was I'm not good enough. Like let me compete, let me fight people. Like, oh, that's all I love to do. Like, so I had to figure out what all these other emotions were. So I had to start to keep a little log whenever I felt like the other feelings, like happiness or joy. And I start to log it down. So you need to be able to figure out your feelings. And then once you can figure out your feelings, then you need to figure out how you communicate it effectively. So whether that's going to a therapist to have them help you with the stuff, or reaching out to coaching, or whatever it is, like that's up to you. But really the function is, because I think everything we do in life, whether it's the money or whatever, we want the money because it's going to make us feel a certain way. So at the end of the day, we're just, to me, these really complex chemical factories that we're just producing all these chemicals. And so we're all addicted, whether we're addicted to drugs, but we're all addicted. Like, I want to feel happy. I want to feel loved. I want to feel all these things. We all want, okay, I get the money so I can feel a specific thing. So getting in tune with what feelings you want to feel is the first thing, so that you can then start to communicate with someone else to be like, hey, I want to feel more connected to you. I want to feel more loved to you. I don't know how to do it. And this is what I teach a lot of people is, especially if you're going to give anyone criticism or whatever, and we do it a lot when we negotiate on the phone with sellers, is like, we have to start with what's the common goal that we want to get to. Right? Like, so if this was a different life, Jesse, and you were my wife, I'd be like, hey, Jesse, I want to love you more. I want to be more connected to you.
Yes.
And right now, I don't feel that connected to you, because when I share my feelings, you attack me or whatever it is. But I really want to love you more, and I want to connect you. Do you have any idea how you can help me with this, or how we can work on something here? I found that's such a better way for giving critique or trying to enhance anything, is you start with the common goal that you guys both are wanting, and then you say what the issue is, and then ask for their thoughts and tips and advice, so that then you can come up with a thing together. Because the way I used to do it, and I used to not do this, like I can tell you that 100% I used to suck at it, that I would go up and like, oh, you don't do this and you're terrible at that. And all it does is just cause, especially my wife's Latina, like then she just is like, oh, you want to fight? Like, let's go. I'm happy now.
Right.
So, but when you come in with, I want to be here, but we're over here. How can we make this, bridge this connection? Because all I want to do is be connected to you. All I want is a better relationship. But right now, this thing that we're doing doesn't feel like we're in alignment working towards that thing.
Interesting. You know, you and I have specifically talked within the last week just about, we've talked about a lot of things, relationships, business, partnerships, building, teams and things like that. And there's a lot of similarities between what you're saying and how it applies to marriage. I mean, you mentioned, how we call sellers. You find out what it is that they're trying to do and how can we align to get both of us where we're trying to go. And it's kind of the same
100%. It's
communication.
Like people always tell me when I'm doing my coaching, oh my gosh, how do you know so much? Like, how are you so good at these things? And I'm like, just because this is what being human's supposed to be. We're supposed to be good at communicating. We're supposed to be good at understanding. We're supposed to be, but none of us are studying. We're all studying other things, to me, that I don't see that as such a useful trait to have. But to be able to human well is like the best gift that I've ever given myself. That now I can cry, now I can express myself emotionally and communicate. Like, it's just opened up a whole new world for me.
Dude, I think that's amazing, man. I love that. I know you've been such an inspiration in the short time that we've known each other, and I've changed a lot of things about how I communicate with my kids and my spouse, and everybody I do business with, man. If you guys are getting value from this, man, please give Creighton some love in the comments. This is really, really awesome. Because there's so much more. There's so much more to this journey, man, of entrepreneurship than, like you said, just the money. It's living a more happy and fulfilled life. I mean, does anybody ever watch The Wolf of Wall Street? Perfect freaking example, man.
I can't tell you how many clients I've coached that they're on the same thing, that they have everything, but they feel nothing. And it's so funny because I think I've been to like over 18 different countries. And when I go to like Latin America or South America, stuff like that, Central America, like it's a totally different life. Like they don't have a lot, but they're as long as they have their family and their tribe, their communities, like they're so happy. But then you come back to the US and you go to these other places where they have everything. They're so stressed. They hate their job. They hate their marriage. They hate their lives. It's like, but you have everything, like, but you're missing the key component. And to take this kind of to the last step, so then I started to do all this thing. My wife and I repaired our relationship and all that. But then I started to like find and feel happiness and like start to listen to my intuition and all this. And that's when I was talking to one of my buddies and I was like asking him, he was like, oh, I don't like my job and all this. And I'm like, dude, if you had 1 year to live, because I think we all take it for granted. It's like, if you have 1 year to live, what would you do with your life? And he's like, I would never do my job. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to quit my job. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like if I had 1 year to live, like this isn't what I would be doing with my life. Like it's not how I want to spend my last year. So that's how I was like, okay, well, I got to get out of engineering somehow. And that's how I kind of transitioned into doing the coaching stuff that I do now.
Dude, what a phenomenal story, man. Thank you for sharing that. Throughout this journey, what I have found, whether it's issues in your relationships, whether it's issues in your business, finances, what have you, there's certainly, I don't think the problem, I think a lot of people think the problem is they don't have either the right information or education or access to the right information and education. And I think that's wrong, especially in 2024. I mean, we've got the internet. Anything and everything you could ever want to know about anything is on the interwebs. Don't tell me you don't have a lack of resources or access to resources. I think what most people are missing, whether it's in their business or in relationships, is having clarity.
Oh, always. Yeah.
It's 100% clarity, and being able to, even just you sharing your story, man, there's just so many things to take away from this. I think, having extreme accountability, it sounds like, was one of the big things that that changed your relationship.
What do you mean by extreme accountability?
Well, just being accountable for yourself and your actions and being willing to say, oh yeah, you know what? This was me. This was my fault. And I'm going to, communicate it differently. Even when you're in a partnership, man, like it's really easy to be in a partnership with somebody. I've had previous partnerships over the years, and it's really easy. And maybe some of you guys watching right now, whether it's the partnership that you have with a significant other, your spouse, a girlfriend, a fiance, a boyfriend, a husband, or a business partner, it's really easy when something doesn't go right to be like, this was your responsibility. This was your fault. We are failing together because it's not you, or because you're doing it, But whether you're in a partnership with somebody professionally or in your personal life, one of the best things, especially if somebody is really quick to point the finger to de-escalate, or even if you're talking to a seller, one of the best things is that I have found to de-escalate something is to accept extreme responsibility, whether it's your fault or not. Being able to accept that responsibility as if it was, and say, hey, you know what? You're absolutely right, Creighton. As a matter of fact, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Thank you for bringing this to light. You're 100% right. We're right. And then going back to like what you said, we're right here. How do we get to right here?
Amen. It's all about knowing what you want. And like my wife and I will have arguments now. And what we used to do is when we get in these arguments, we'd be like, and we'd get mad at each other and we'd fight for like 3 or 4 days. I
Mhm.
don't know if anyone's had that, like where you get mad at them and then you do the little game, I'm not gonna look at you, or like you walk by and give them the cold shoulder. But then it's
Right.
just insane. And this is why to me, like once you figure out who do you want to be, like that's everything. And like how do you want, what's the outcome you want? Like because what I realized with my wife and I's relationship is like, okay, well, I'm mad at her and then 3 days later we get over it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Why do I have to wait 3 days to get over it? Because what do I really want? I really want to love her. I really want to be connected to her. I want to, all these things. I want to get to the third day. So now, whenever we fight and I'm angry, kind of like what you're saying, I'll just pause and I'll remind myself, like, who do I want to be? What do I want from this relationship? What do I want from this day? Like, all these
Hmm.
things. And that's when I'm like, I want to be love. I want to be caring. I want to be kind. I want to be compassionate. All these things that, so when we fight, I'm like, oh no, I want to love this person. So I'll pause and I'll be like, oh my gosh, honey, I love you. And like, I'll just give her a hug. Because that's really what we want. Like, why are we fighting over something that's so petty and so silly? Not to say that we can't deal with that later, but
Hmm.
at that moment, it's just like, oh my gosh, I love you. Like, I don't want to fight. Like, I want to just love you. But that's our ego. That's, I need to be right. You need to be wrong. Like, all that. Like, that's, I mean, Ryan Holiday talks about ego's the enemy, like
Yeah.
100%. Like, and that was my life for like 37 years, and my life was all ego. I got to be better. Everyone else has to fail. I'm competing against everybody. Like, it was just such a terrible way to go through because everyone has to lose for me to win.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, you want to hear something that was really interesting? I was watching some of Ed Milet's content a few days ago, and Ed Milet, like he's sitting in his Jeep and he pulls over to the side of the road and is like, "Hey guys, I just need to pull over and I
I
need to
saw
tell you
that one.
this." Did you see that one? Talk
Yeah.
about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like what a win, dude. And he even
Yeah.
said it. He's like, dude, this has nothing to do. I didn't win anything. I didn't get an award. I didn't make a shit ton of money today. Like I didn't like this was the win. You want to tell that story and kind of
No,
relate
go
that a
ahead.
little bit to what we're talking?
I mean, so he talked about how some dude was revving up his engine or whatever, and I might not get, I don't want, I kind of paraphrasing. Some dude was challenging him and made him angry, aggressive. It obviously started to hit his ego, get his,
Like a red light, right?
yeah, yeah. And so the guy wanted to race him, all this, and normally he would get really angry and all that, but he was able to control himself and not let that escalate him. And I think that that's so important because he's like, oh, it's not a big win, it's not a big money deal. But I disagree wholeheartedly because if he isn't working on those things, he probably wouldn't have got to the success that he's allows him to get the big money deals. Like
Mhm.
people don't see it's these small, little, boring, simple things that you do every day that compounds to the bigger things that we have in our life. So
100%, dude.
we're focusing on the wrong thing. And that's where going back to like the whole fulfillment and happiness, like I think we're missing the wrong thing. If you're just focused on the money, because here's the exercise I do with some people is like, everyone says they want the money, right? Oh, if I just had money, then I'd be happy.
Mhm.
Cool. I don't know if I can say this on your podcast, but I've heard you use the
Say
F
it, bro.
bombs. So go get a gun and just start killing people, start doing whatever you have to get as much money. Like I guarantee you can get as much money as you want and have what you say you want to have and in a short period of time. But then people are always like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. Well, why not? Because I don't want to kill people. I don't want that feeling. So you would have to agree that your feeling that you want to achieve is a higher priority than just getting the money. But most of us don't ever start working on those feelings of what do I actually want to feel on a daily basis? Like, how do I want to show up? And that's why, in a lot of stuff in my coaching, that I want people to find the stuff that makes them happy. Yeah, money can be part of it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm all for money. Like, yes,
Yep.
bring me money. But at the same time, like, what's the cost? What are you giving up? And this is what I love with talking with you, Jesse, is like, I feel like we're on the same alignment of like, we still have our family priorities, our health priorities. We're not willing to sacrifice those just to get as much money as possible. Because I
Right.
know when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah.
So like, that's why you're talking about it's every Friday, by the way, which is today. So Friday, every Friday's date night. Last night we did a float tank for our date night, which was amazing. That was really cool. 60-minute, it flew by. I never thought a 60-minute meditation would fly by, because I actually sit with my daughter at night. She wants to do this now. So we do a 10-minute meditation at night. And when I do 10 minutes with her, I feel like it lasts forever. But doing the 60 just flew by. So
that's awesome, bro. And it's weird because this all ties together, like the money, the success, the happiness, the fulfillment, like it's all tied and intertwined together. If you guys want to go make more money, you have to have your emotions in check. You can't run a company and you can't begin scaling and have control over your money. One of my favorite quotes from Warren Buffett: if you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money.
I would say that's valid. And I would say you could probably, I wasn't, millionaire or anything, but I was making a lot of money, but what was the cost? Like, I didn't know what feelings I wanted to get. And even when I did realize, like you're saying, when I had my daughter, I knew I wanted that feeling, but I didn't know how to achieve it. And it wasn't until I started to start writing down what things made me feel certain ways to be like, oh, that gives me that feeling. I like that one. Okay, how can I get more of that one? Okay, what about this one? What about this one? And that's where I started to figure out, what are my values? What are my values in my life? And how do I want to allocate my time to be in alignment with my values? That way, because my whole goal, because I don't know how many more years, how many more days I get to be here. And I think it's silly for us to think, oh, I get to be here forever, so I'm going to be happy later. I'm going to be nice later. I'm going to be more patient. I'm going to be all these things in 20, 60, 80, 100 years. I mean, realistically, who cares about the money if you die at the end of today? At the end of today, one of the questions I love to ask myself at the end of the day am I proud of how I spent my time today? If I get taken from this earth tonight when I go to sleep, did I cash my check the way I want to cash it? And for me, that means taking care of myself. That means hanging out with my family a lot. And that means doing work and helping other people. As long as I get those on mostly a daily basis, take me. It doesn't matter. But when I was just so focused on one of my values of money, I lost out on all those other things. And that's why the fulfillment and all the happiness started to dissipate.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder. I heard this story one time and I was like, oh my gosh, this kind of stays with me every single day. But for everybody listening right now, I want you to think about this. Let's fast forward to the day that you're on your deathbed and you're just listening to the heart monitor. Beep, 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 beep. And you're surrounded by your loved ones. You've got your family. You've got your kids, your grandkids. Maybe even you're lucky enough to have your great grandkids there. And you're sitting there listening to the heart monitor. You're seeing the smiles on everybody's faces. And that heart monitor begins to get slower and slower. And then a nurse comes in right at the last minute before you're about to take your last breath. And she gives you a vial. And this vial will allow you to go back and relive one day in your life. And it's just a random day. You don't get to pick it. And you take that vial right before you take your last breath. And you instantly go back to a random day in your life. Now, the catch is with this last day that you get to spend, you don't get to do anything different. It has to be repeated the exact same way that you lived it. So with that in mind, think about the things that Creighton has shared with us today about what it means to be accountable, to be happy, to want more fulfillment, because the money is great, but it means nothing if you don't have the people who love and care about you in there to spend it with you. You're not fulfilled. And you don't want to be put back in a position where you have to relive that next day and you were so caught up on a Zoom meeting or in a phone call or whatever, that when your daughter comes in or your son comes in or your wife comes in and you were so quick to push them out, or when your kids need something. So keep that in mind next time something happens that wasn't unexpected that may trigger you to respond differently. That's what this is about. When you control your emotions, your actions follow with whatever emotion you have. And when you understand you have your emotions in check, your actions follow that. If somebody cuts you off on the highway, most people are probably going to be pretty pissed, flipping the finger, all that other kind of shit. But what if that person has a wife who's in labor that he's trying to take to the hospital? Does your emotion change about it? Yeah, of course. But what's interesting is the event doesn't change. So you being able to understand and have your emotions in check will allow you to live a happier and more fulfilled life. And your actions based on how you understand the world around you will be different if you have your emotions in check. You take action on the way that you think about things, your emotion about those things. So, Creighton, dude, this was awesome, bro.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
can
I love
add
you.
in?
I appreciate you.
I love you, man. Like love everything you're saying. Like, oh yeah, you got to love your people that you're around, all that. But like, I mean, I can tell from myself, and maybe I'm just a different breed because there's a lot of people that I talk to are like the type A's, that the go getters, they're hard, all this. If you can't love yourself, like the version of yourself that's going to be showing up for people is still going to be a shell. Like I can tell you by me starting to figure out how to love myself, how to appreciate myself for who I am today, not who I need to become. And I want to keep changing. I want to keep growing. I want to keep evolving. But if you can't love yourself today, the amount of love that you have to give to other people is like empty. Like as soon as I was able to love myself, like that's why I'm able to pour into people so much more now. But before, when I had an empty cup, there's nothing to fill into other people. And really, I was just a beggar. Like I always use this example of like my cup was so empty that I'd go to my wife and be like, tell me I'm good enough. Tell me I'm awesome. Tell me all these things. And she'd fill up my cup. But my cup was full of so many holes that it would just drain out. So it would last for a day. And then I go to her again. Tell me I'm amazing. Tell me this. I got to go to someone else. Like, tell me this. Like I needed all this validation from all this external stuff, whether it's from my wife, whether it's from money, all these things were coming in to this cup that I had that was just so full of so many holes. That's why I couldn't sustain the happiness and the fulfillment. But once I started to do the work of trying to figure out, okay, why can't I love myself? What is it that about myself that I don't love? Why do I have all these triggers? Well, like what Jesse's saying, when I have these emotions, why am I so reactive? Why do I just react these ways? But once I started to do this work and plug my holes, like now I get to fill up my own cup. So when my wife comes and says, Creighton, you're amazing or whatever, like, I know, honey, like, thank you so much. It just overflows now. But the best part is now I can go to other people's cups and fill theirs up rather than needing them to give me stuff. So for me, I think it all starts with if you can't love yourself, you're not going to be that good of a version of yourself for other people. So really take some time, and it hurts to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, why don't I love myself? And find out what these are and start to try to find a way to deal with these. Because I guarantee if you don't deal with it, you think the 100,000, the prettier wife, the better relate, all these things are going to solve it. But you're not plugging the hole. It's just going to eventually go right through it again.
Mm-hmm. Well said, bro. Well said. Well, thank you for jumping on here, man. I hope you have an
thank
awesome
you.
rest of your
Sorry, I
day.
got to balance. I got to go priorities. I got to go to my daughter's play. Like that's one of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur now. Not doing the thing is like the other day I got to take my daughter. I take my daughters to school every single day. Like I get to hang out with my wife for breakfast this morning. I get to go to my daughter's play. I get to talk with you guys. Like it's the best thing ever.
I love that you've created a life, man, where if you were to die and had the opportunity to come back and relive that
I take
same day,
every day.
yeah, every
Yeah,
single day is the
100%.
knowledge
So
that
for
you get. I
anyone
love
else,
that.
the one thing I can recommend for you, just take time and figure out what are your priorities. Like Jesse's saying, if you had one day to live, what are the things that you would do that brings you happiness and fulfillment that you'd want to do it again? If that was going to be your Groundhog's Day, like if this is my Groundhog's Day now, oh, yes, I'll take that every day of the week.
Dude,
If you're not
100%.
willing to repeat the same day, you need to check your life and figure out why not and do that work.
Hopefully it wasn't a day you had to relive where you spent like Creighton was saying, like where you guys are you're giving you and your wife the cold shoulder or whatever. It happens in one of those 3 days that you have to relive. Like hopefully that's not it. So be
100%.
conscious of that and, hug your kids. Hopefully you made love to your wife that day or your husband for
Check.
everybody else who that applies to. So anyway, yeah, thank you so much to think about, dude. I always
Sorry
grow
for
every
the
time we get the opportunity to
difficulties.
talk. No, this was great, man. This was awesome. Failing forward, dude. That's what it's all about, bro.
Yeah.
That's what it's all
Get out
about.
of here.
Real
Love you
quick,
guys.
where can everybody connect with you? I know you got a Facebook group, right? For people who want to learn more and connect and to grow this way.
Yeah, just send me. There's my IG on the thing.
Let me see if I can make it big real quick so people can.
Opposite.
At Creighton Bertrand. That's where everyone can connect with you.
Yeah, just send me a message on IG or go follow my stuff. The inside, I think in the highlights, there's a Facebook group highlight that you can click, and then you can go straight to the group. So,
all right, guys. Well, awesome.
Love y'all.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
Thank
Hope
you,
guys
man.
have
We'll
an
talk to you later.
Bye-bye.